Otherwise, we're going to go to mitosis, looking at biology, semester 1, activity 3.2.1, looking at the stages of mitosis. And I wanted to go over this. First, I wanted to talk about what mitosis is and the importance of mitosis and the steps to mitosis. And then I wanted to go into this activity. I chose this activity because it has some questions in it that I think students get a little tricked up on, or they think too much into it. There's a question where it asks about estimates, and I want to go over what that means when we're doing estimating and then backing up our answers for why we believe that estimate. Okay, so I just want to clarify that one because I do get some questions on it, or sometimes I'll get blank assignments. So I wanted to go over and make sure that that was pretty clear. Okay, so let's first start talking about mitosis. When we start talking about mitosis, we have to talk about DNA and life cycles. Okay, so just like humans, think about ourselves, we go through stages. We're an infant, a toddler, a child, an adult, right? We have this life cycle. Our life begins, and of course our life ends, and through that entirety, we have different stages that our bodies go through. Well, this also occurs in all other organisms as well, but it also occurs in our cells. Pretty crazy to think about it. So as we think about the makeup of our body is made up of millions of cells. Those cells combine to form tissues like your muscle tissue, your skin tissue, your fat tissue. And then those tissues combine together to form the organs, and organs combine together to create an organ system. And then you get the complete organism. Pretty cool. Okay. So the life of a cell can be divided into different parts as well, or different phases, so to speak. And it's that, those stages is what makes up mitosis. So it's the stage of a cell, the different phases that it goes through. And there's two main phases. If you can see right here, there's two key parts to mitosis, or the life cycle of a cell. And the first one is what we call interphase. This is also known as the mitotic phase or mitosis. And in interphase, this is when a cell carries out a lot of its important day-to-day function, which makes up most of the cell's life. So as we think about a cell, their biggest stage of life, or the stage that they spend the most amount of time in, is this interphase, where they're just continuing to carry out life functions, continuing to go through the functions that the cell is, whatever type of cell it is programmed to do. Okay, so the cell isn't changing much here. Rather, again, it's just what we could kind of say is maintaining homeostasis, keeping balance, doing its function. Okay, so interphase is the largest stage of a cell's life, day-to-day basis living. Okay, and mitosis, this is when cell division happens. So cell growth stops and one cell divides to become two cells. So this is how we talk about how a cell reproduces or replicates or duplicates itself. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so before learning about cell division, we have to consider where this is all taking place at and thinking about that genetic material. So we know inside the cells carry that genetic makeup that gets passed down. Okay, and in a cell, it has a command center, just like you think about your brain or your body. Your brain is like the command center. Well, inside each one of your cells, you can see here in this picture, we've got a nucleus, and inside that nucleus, that's the command center here, and that DNA is found inside there. And this is the genetic material of cells, DNA, and it's located in that nucleus. DNA is a molecule that carries the information to make new cells and ultimately a new organism. It drives it has the codes, the makeup of what it is, and tells it what to produce and what its function is. So before a cell divides, all of its DNA must be copied so that it can be passed on to a new cell that can result. So you have a full set of DNA in every cell of your body except for your sex cells. Because as we think about that, you carry half of your genetic information. So you think about in sexual reproduction, it takes two. So you have two parents that produce that sex cell. So you're getting half from each one of your parents. But in mitosis, it's different. This is reproduction, making an exact copy of that same cell. So things look very different in a nucleus depending on what part of the cell cycle that it's in. This looser form of DNA that lacks a specific structure is what we call the chromatin. So you can see in here, you've got chromosomes and you've got chromatin. And when it's lacking that structure, again, it's telling you kind of what cycle or phase that cell is going through, okay? Even though we describe it as loose, as the thing about this chromatin, the DNA is actually folded up and looped to prevent it to become this nice tangled mess. So our DNA is very organized, no matter what stage or function that it is in, okay? So again, we're looking at a single cell here and we're looking at just the nucleus. That's where that DNA, that genetic material is at, okay? As mitosis starts, DNA condenses. Okay, so DNA then shrinks, it condenses, it squishes in together, and you can see specific rod-shaped structures, which we call the chromosomes. Okay, each chromosome is made up of a single long piece of DNA, and different organisms have different numbers of chromosomes, depending on the type of species that it is. So we think about in humans, every human cell has 23 pairs for a total of 46 chromosomes. Each chromatid, or half of the chromosome, is an identical copy of the other. The two copies, what we call the chromatids, are joined at the centromere. So again, as we have got, here's showing you an example of a chromosome, so two of them, each one being the chromatid, and then they're joined together at that centromere. The two copies are joined, at the centromere. It's important to remember that because as the DNA was already copied, each chromatin contains the full set of genetic information. So again, we've got two sets here, so identical. Okay, here at the bottom, you can see some images of then the stages or those phases that mitosis goes through. Mitosis itself consists of 4 stages represented by the letters P, M, A, T, which is prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. In the pictures here, the first image represents a cell in interphase. So again, talking about the two parts to mitosis, you have that interphase part, which is when the cell is in its normal day-to-day functions. It's just carrying out its life function, carrying out the role that it played. Okay, so it looks very normal here. The second part of that mitosis goes into this PMAT, those 4 phases, and this is where the DNA replicates, okay? So take a look at the diagram as we describe what's happening in each one of these phases. So prophase, which is the first phase of mitosis. This is where the chromosomes, again, they condense and they become visible. I'm going to move this out of the way here. Okay, so we've got the chromosomes in here condensing, becoming visible. You can see the chromatids there. And then we hit up, we go to metaphase. Here's this pro-metaphase, so it's kind of the medium between the two as we talk about those chromosomes condensing and becoming visible, as you can see here. Okay, and then we get to metaphase. Meta, kind of thinking like the middle. Second phase of mitosis, in which the chromosomes, they line up at the center of that stage. So here we can see they're found in the nucleus, and then as we get to metaphase, they line up into that center. So it's like the nucleus kind of spreads open here, and those chromosomes line up straight across the center of that cell, because of course it's going to become 2 cells. In anaphase, the third phase of mitosis, in which chromosomes begin to pull apart and go in opposite directions, okay? So remember, we've got those chromatids, which are identical sets, okay? So as they line up here at the middle, one's gonna go to one end of the cell and the other's going to go to the other, so they separate. And this is what's occurring here in anaphase. Those chromosomes begin to pull apart and go in opposite directions. And then we've got telophase, the 4th phase of mitosis, in which chromosomes are pulled to opposite poles and a new nuclei forms. Okay, so we've got those chromosomes pulling to the other side, and then what happens is you can see a new nucleus, nuclei, we're talking about plural here, they form, and you can begin to see where those 2 cells are then going to separate. Okay, after new nuclei form in telophase, a process called cytokinesis happens where the cell physically divides into 2. The 2 new daughter cells that result have a full set of DNA, and they each begin a new interphase. And so they begin again into that just life functioning stage. We call them daughter cells because again, they are identical, because remember, we split the chromosomes. We had 2 sets of chromosomes. They were identical. They split apart. They became 2 separate daughter cells. Okay, so again, those are the stages of mitosis. So again, interphase, day-to-day functioning, where it spends most of its lifetime, and then the process of mitosis, where we actually have the cell becoming 2. We've got prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So why is this important? Well, this process is so important because we're these single-celled organisms out there that use this process to make a whole entire new organism. So as we think about some organisms that are single-celled that reproduce asexually, just duplicating their cells, there's no 2 parents involved. This process of mitosis creates those organisms going. The single cell reproduces on its own, making an exact copy of itself, a new organism. For organisms like us with many cells, we use this process to make new cells. You started out as 1 cell, and through this process happens many, many times during, the embryonic development of when, think about when life is created, and baby is born, and baby is growing and developing. Your body is continuing to go through this massive development of cells reproducing, and this is the process. As your body continues to grow and maintain itself, it continues to grow new cells. So as you're thinking about in your life every day, your cells in your body are going through mitosis over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, your body is always producing new cells. It's cells die, new cells are made. We continue to grow and develop. If we get injured, new cells are made. Okay. So let's take a look at this activity. 3.2.1, stages of mitosis, okay? It says, in this activity, you will review what you just learned about the different stages of mitosis. Scientists investigate cell division using microscopes because, of course, as we think about cells, they're very small. We need to have a tool that we can look at to see, especially if we want to see these phases of mitosis happening. We need to be able to see much more in depth, magnified. So we use a microscope. You're going to look at the image below, and this is an example of some onion root tip. So we're looking at an onion, the root of it, okay? And it's going to show us some examples of cells in various phases of the cell cycle. Remember that the chromosomes only condense and become visible during prophase of mitosis. So here's some helpful hints for you, because again, it's kind of hard. As we look at this picture, it's going to be, it's not going to be an exact number because, of course, we're looking at something magnified. Some of it's a little bit blurry because we're looking underneath a viewfinder and it is a picture, okay? Here's some helpful hints for you here. Each individual cell is surrounded by a rectangular cell wall. Okay, so we're talking about an onion, so we're talking about a plant cell. So as we think about plant cells, they kind of have 2 forms of that protection, the cell membrane and as well as the cell wall. And so you're going to notice it's very rectangular. You'll see a big bolded line. That's that cell wall. The nucleus is the darker stained area of each cell. Usually it's a roundish shape, usually. Cells in interphase do not have distinct structures in the nucleus. So when you see a cell that is in that major part of its life cycle, the interphase, what you usually just see is, a rectangular cell wall. And then you'll see a round, darker spot for that nucleus, okay? Here's your task. You're going to estimate the number of cells you think belong in each phase of the cell cycle and record your data. Explain how you decided what occurs in each phase of mitosis. And then you'll click the start button when you are ready to begin here, okay? I'm going to go back up here. Again, we're estimating. Okay, so we're going to be looking at an image of quite a few different cells under a viewer. It's a picture taken from a microscope of this onion tip. And we have to kind of decide which phase each one of these cells is in. And actually, we're going to be looking at estimating how many are in each one of the phases. How many are in interphase, how many is in prophase, metaphase, Anaphase, and Telophase, okay? Now this is an estimate. We're gonna get to the rubric here. Let me show you this rubric, okay? So here it's broken down into two parts. What they want you to do is estimate the number of cells in each phase. So number of cells in each phase. Okay, cells not counted. Cells counted were incorrect. Number of cells counted was correct. Now, again, we're talking about estimates. So there's not going to be an exact definite number here. The idea and what the goal is can you look at an image and kind of decide which phase these cells are in based off knowing, using the images and knowing what happens in each one of the phases, okay? And then the second part is the description of how you decided this. And this is the more important part, I will say, in this rubric, is that we're looking for an explanation of the number of cells. It was descriptive, and it was used to decide the different cell stages. So if you were to say that there are 10 cells in interphase, you need to be able to explain why you think that. So again, you're making an estimate, but you have to back it up, and you have to back it up with showing your understanding of what you know is happening in each one of those phases. So if you say there's 10 cells in interphase, well, you could back that up by saying, there's no structures seen during this phase. You can see a definite cell wall and a definite nucleus. Again, no structures. That's a good description showing that you have an understanding of what interphase is, but also what it looks like. Okay. Okay, so here it is. Look at the image below. Estimate the number of cells that belong in each phase of the cell cycle. Then explain how you made your decision and describe what occurs at each phase of mitosis. Refer to the rubric to see how you will be graded. And then down here we have the phases of the cell cycle. So again, here they have the cell cycle phases, and they want you to, again, this is used as just a guide to remind you of what those 5 stages are. Okay, so first thing students will say, but it's really, really blurry, it's hard to see. I get that, okay? Again, it's an estimate. We're looking at, can you show your understanding of what is happening in each one of the cell phases, okay? So being able to explain, backing up what you believe. Again, like I say this in the notes for this, it says these are estimates. There is not a 100% definite answer of which phase each one of these cells in. It's a round estimate number. Again, we're looking for you to be able to back up your idea, your estimate, with describing what happens in each one of those phases. Okay. Okay. So first thing though is as we go back to thinking about these phases, which phase does the cell spend most of its lifetime in? Interphase. Okay, so the majority of these are going to be in interphase. So here's a good example of interphase. Okay, as we talk about that rectangular box, again, that's that cell wall right there. And then inside that rectangular box, you've got that nucleus. Okay, that dark, usually circular object is the nucleus. And in interphase, again, we do not see any definite structures. We just see the nucleus, okay? So most of these, as we can see here, would be considered interphase, where you're seeing just kind of a dark circle in each one of those cell wall boxes, okay? Okay, and then from here, you would go down the line and you would think about looking at the different phases. So if we go to, prophase, you can go back to your notes here and you can look at, this is the first phase of mitosis where the chromosomes condense and become visible. Okay, so you could look over here and you could say, okay, they're starting to condense, become visible. Okay. And then as we go to our next phase, metaphase, this is when the chromosomes line up at the center. So then you would go and you would look for chromosomes lining up kind of towards the center here. Anaphase, they begin to pull apart. So you would look for them starting to kind of stretch apart. The cells are stretching apart. And then that last phase, telophase, where you actually see 2 new cells form. So here's an example there. There's an example. you see that splitting taking place. Pretty cool. Okay, so again, please do not focus about the exact numbers, okay? I can, as looking at this, we can see, it's kind of blurry, it's cut off, it's a picture. But of these ones that you can see pretty clearly, make an estimate about which ones you think are in each one of their phases and explain how you know that. Let's take a look at a student response here. Okay. So again, these are a little bit out of order. So as we think about the first phase of mitosis, we should be going interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, okay? Again, nothing in the rubric said that you had to go in that order. So as you can see here, so this student said, we'll go with interphase, 10 cells, because this is a starting phase, so there is more. In this phase, mitosis begins to start transforming cells. And again, it's also important to note that during that interphase, there is no definite cell structures in that nucleus, rather just a nucleus. Okay, we go to our next phase, prophase. 8 cells, because this is the phase where the chromosomes start to emerge and begin the cycle. So they estimated about 8. Again, they're right. This is when the chromosomes begin to condense and you can see them. Okay, metaphase. 8 cells, because this is when they get attached and move to the middle of the cell. And then we go to anaphase, 8 cells, because this is the phase in which they get pulled apart to form new cells. And again, you might want to clarify, this is where the chromosomes are then pulled apart, begin to form new cells. And then we've got telophase, 16 cells, because the cell splits into 2, so that means the cell count would double what it was originally of 8. Okay, this is when you actually see, again, that cell splits into 2. Okay, so looking here, we can see an example of 2. We can see example of 2, example of 2, example of 2, okay? So as we think about using this rubric to assess this, okay, number of cells in each stage, was there an estimate given? There was. So the student estimated how many cells they believe were happening in each one of those phases. So yes, they checked that off, definitely exceeds that expectation, okay? For the most part, as again, there is not going to be a 100%. You must get every number exactly right, because these are, again, our estimates, and we're looking at a picture under a microscope. So I think they did a good job at estimating those out. Your description of how you decided this. The student, again, gave an explanation about what was occurring in each one of those phases to kind of have an idea of what they're looking for as they are looking at this image. So, the chromosomes lining up at the center, the chromosomes becoming visible, the chromosomes spreading apart, moving to each side, to the actual 2 cells splitting, becoming the 1 cell splitting and becoming 2. Okay, so again, I feel like the student did a good job explaining. They could have gone, they might get docked down a couple points in here, could have used a little bit more detail in explaining, using words like chromosomes, making sure in interphase that we talk about that there are no visible structures. But for the most part, the student estimated how many they think are in each phase, as well as backed it up and explained what occurs in each one of those phases. Okay. So again, this is coming from activity 3.2.1, the stages of mitosis. This is in biology semester 1. I hope this gives you a better idea of how to complete this activity and gives you some helpful hints of what to do to help yourself complete this, and a little bit better understanding and guiding on how to complete it. Okay, again, please don't get frustrated with this image. It's not meant to be tricky or not. This is just a good example of kind of a whole bunch of plant cells here, this onion tip, that we can see, and it shows different cells occurring. Okay, so this is a good example of looking at seeing some of these different phases. Great. Okay, well, if you have any other questions about 3.2.1, let me know. I've got a chat coming in, so I'm going to take a look at this chat. Okay. Um, Okay, so anytime these live sessions occur, you are always welcome to join the live session. You're also at any point in time you want to, go to the Teacher Mentor YouTube channel and take a look at all of the collection of videos that we have throughout all the different courses. This is a great resource for you. Even if you're not in the course, it's, still, if you're looking to learn a little bit more about science or another topic, that is totally great. These are, here to help support you guys. And if you find it interesting, maybe it'll be a course that maybe you want to take. Okay. Okay, then. This is what I have for today. If you have any other questions, please let me know. And as you go through your courses and go through your activities, and if you ever get stuck, please reach out to your teachers. We're here to help support you guys, okay? You don't have to wait for a live session. You can send us a chat, send us an email, whatever your preferred method of communication is. Let us know, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can, okay? So again, please remember, we're here to help you guys. Okay, so again, also as you're going through your courses and you do get stuck, or you want a little bit more information, or maybe you want to see an example of how to complete an activity, check out that YouTube channel. Lots of assignments have been completed, these live sessions where we kind of go through, give you a little bit better idea of how to complete the activity, as well as maybe show you some examples. They are there for you, so you can just go to the Teacher Mentor YouTube channel. You can go to playlists and you can actually click on the different courses, so it's broken down. So if you want to look at science courses and science activities, just click the science one. Great. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna sign off here. Everybody have a great day and a great week in science, and keep it going. And we'll see you guys soon. Bye.